Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. Hoddit and Doddit as usual in the driving seat. Haggerty 10, Tony Haggerty. I'm joined again by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. So today, guys, as we want to do during International Week, we like to get your Q&As. So if you want to just hammer the comment section with your questions, myself and Sean will endeavour to come up with the right answers or a suitable answer to your questions. So on you go, just fire them into the comment section and we'll flick them up. But I wanted to start today, Sean, by talking about Anthony Ralston spoke yesterday about the Hibs ladies game, amongst other topics. And obviously he was asked about Celtic and he said something, and I wanted to kind of mindset of the Celtic players at the minute. It kind of struck me.
Right.
We believe in ourselves, we believe in the team, and we're in a brilliant place. We've had a great season, but it is game by game, and our objective is to go into each game and to do our best. We believe in the end that will be enough. The pressure's never off. You hope to hold your own goals, both as a team and individually, and always put that pressure on ourselves to achieve everything that we want to. Not bad for 7 games left in the season, and he feels that they're in a good place, and that what they do in the end will be enough. You agree with that?
I do agree with that, but I think first and foremost I had to check the quotes for Anthony Ralston and no Ange Postecoglou. Very Postecoglou quotes from Mr. Ralston there. I think what else is he meant to say? Like that is the attitude that Postecoglou's been trying to instill in the whole scenario. And I think, he said when he came in, I think it was an article, was it in the Athletic? I can't remember, that mentioned that Ralston and Greg Taylor were two of the main kind of players that embraced wholeheartedly what Ange Postecoglou was selling, and you're still seeing that now. I think actually, obviously, I made the case for Ralston to be in the Scotland squad and stuff last week with Alisson while you were off, but Taylor as well. I rate him anyway, but I think even some of his critics are even coming around to thinking that he's actually been improving, and I think a lot of that is to do with working with this manager at this time in their careers. So I'm not really surprised that the kind of things that Anthony Ralston was saying yesterday sounded just like the manager, because that's what's been drummed into him all season. And if he's bought into it the way that it looks like he's bought into it, then this is exactly the kind of thing Postecoglou will be happy to hear him saying at this stage in the season.
And guys, just a bit of housekeeping to start off with. If you like these videos and you want to see more, you can subscribe here at www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. We appreciate that. You'll see all sorts of stuff on there, all sorts of articles, contributors, columnists, all sorts of statistical and data analysis, Sean. Isn't that right?
Yep, that's correct. Keep your eyes peeled. There's a couple of good things up the day. We'll probably debate this closer to the Rangers game, but Kyogo and Giakoumakis, James Daly, if you're on Twitter, Duco James, his handle is on that. He's done an article today which is worth a read, comparing the two of them, what they bring to the team. Is there a possibility the two of them start together, that kind of thing? That's worth a read, definitely.
Well, I'll ask you that, Sean. Do you think can Kyogo and Giakoumakis start
made that rod from my own back there?
You did indeed.
Not in a 4-4-2, which is what the common thing I see people asking. I just don't see that happening. Not to say I wouldn't be intrigued to see it, but I just don't see that happening. I think you're probably, remember at the start of the season when Edward was still here, you kind of saw Kyogo having to play wide now and again.
Yes.
The fact that Giakoumakis is in such good form, and this is in a microcosm of this moment in time, how can you drop him? Is what I would say. So if you want to get both of them in the team, I think you're looking at moving Kyogo out wide again. I don't think that's where you get the best out of him either, though. So if you're taking it rather than in an isolated period, if you're just taking it in terms of the general point, then I still think Kyogo is the first choice, and I think deservedly will be the first choice. But for now, you never know. Is there an avenue to get both of them in the team? Aye, but I suspect that would be Kyogo playing wide rather than two up front.
I'm inclined to agree with that, actually. To be fair, I still think Kyogo's far more effective through the middle. And you might find him rotating Kyogo and Giakoumakis in the centre forward berth the way he likes to rotate. Here's a question for you, Sean. You spoke about Ralston. Greg Ime comes in and says, thoughts of Ralston trying a left back as a position?
No, not particularly. No.
And I won.
He played left wing back for the 7 minutes that he got for Scotland against Denmark, but I don't see the rationale. I don't necessarily think it would suit him either. I think he's found his feet at right back, which, lest we forget, has only been this season. So I don't see the need to start moving him across the flank to make it just even more difficult for him. Juranovic has already shown he can switch there. I still don't think you get the best out of him there either, but he doesn't. He still puts in decent performances. If you need someone to deputise there, that's assuming Taylor's injured and Scales is injured, I presume. Then Juranovic can go over. I don't see Ralston having to play there at all.
David Bradley comes in and says, "What's the damage with Rogic injury-wise now?" The manager spoke about that, didn't he? Briefly, he said it's medium-term damage, didn't he? Again, he's not one for timescales, is he, Ange? So I don't think he wants. No, he's a down for Ibrox, So, but I think that's kind of what people were reading into it, that it could be doubtful for Ibrox. That's certainly what I was reading into it. But then again, it's would he have played at Ibrox with the way Ange likes to rotate? So it's up to him. But we will find out on April the 3rd, Sean, whether he's fit enough for Ibrox or not, won't we?
Yes, we will. I think he just says that he was a bit sore, couldn't go away with Australia, which, depending on the way you want to see it, could actually be a benefit in terms of everything else, the travel, the plane and stuff. They're actually 0-0 with Japan at the moment.
Yeah, half time.
Australia, Hatate's on the bench for Japan. And he did use the term, the kind of words medium term. Take from that what you will, because there is only 7 league games left. So that doesn't necessarily mean that he's out for the rest of the season. Doesn't mean he's out for 3 or 4 or 5 of the games. So we will need to see. He'll be asked. There's absolutely no doubt he'll be asked when it's the pre-match pressers after everyone's back from international duty. He will be asked. So you'll see. You'll see that.
Yeah. And Billy Subs Grant comes in. Isn't Scales a left-footed centre half?
Yes, he is.
Left back. Yes,
correct. I think, by the looks of it, Ange fancies him as a left-back deputy rather than centre-back. You never know long-term, though, because he's got the height. I wouldn't say he's got the aerial prowess, but he's got the height. And he's good with the ball at his feet, which is always a plus. But I think before, or just as he joined, he was asked the question, where do you see your best position? And Scales said centre-back, but he was happy to play anywhere. Obviously, he's not had a chance at centre-back, so you don't know what he would bring in this team.
Yeah.
Kind of curious. I've got a pal of mine who's been beating that drum to me in the group chat for months, saying give him a shot at left centre-back, give him a shot at left centre-back. I think that might be to do with his dislike of Starfelt more than anything else. But you're correct, he is technically a left-footed centre-back who plays left-back.
At this moment in time, you're not displacing Carter Vickers or Starfelt from the centre-back?
Nah, you're not at all. Certainly not. No, not at all.
No. Gerard Coyle comes in, Sean, and says, do you think the Sydney Cup will still go ahead with or without Rangers?
I think it will, I do. I think it's Angie's homecoming, not Rangers' homecoming, so I think it'll just be replaced by another team.
I think so too.
If they do pull out, obviously, and that's their thing. But
that's Rangers' bag at the minute, and for them to decide on, and it's causing all sorts of chaos and ructions behind the scenes. But I think Celtic are definitely. I don't think Celtic will pull out now, because as you say, it's Andy's homecoming. It's a big draw, and let's be honest, there's a lot of money to be made for Celtic going over.
Now, I think the two of us agreed that we didn't like the prospect of the derby going on tour. You wrote the kind of opinion piece on it. Alison also wrote an article on it where she kind of made the point that as much as it might not suit a lot of people, it's almost both clubs embracing how they're seen worldwide rather than just in Scotland, that kind of thing, which was a fair point as well. But ultimately, my kind of feelings on it were it didn't need to be a derby to attract people. Scott McDonald, you spoke to him. He was obviously happy that Celtic were going at all, so he could take his boy to see them over in Australia. I think that would have been the attitude, whether it was Celtic versus Rangers or whether it was Celtic versus Cumbernauld Colts over there. I don't know. I think it would have been that. I think it would have been a draw regardless. So I think it will still go ahead. I don't see why it wouldn't for Celtic's point of view.
I think the Celtic manager's actually looking forward to it now, isn't he?
He says that itself. You've seen, but as always, he didn't want to get drawn into the actual intricacies of the derby being there. But in terms of taking Celtic back to Australia, he was delighted. You could see his pride at the prospect of it, and obviously the nice wee quip saying, "Well, in November that means I must still be in a job." So fair enough.
Yeah. Aye, but regardless of what happens this season, Sean, in the title run in, Ange Postecoglou will still be in a job. There is no.
I think so, aye, but they've got. I'd like to see them get that tied up before the end of the season, just because I think what he's building. You always refer to that beautiful house analogy that Postecoglou came out with earlier in the season. I think what he's building, the identity that he's instilling. I know it was a 1 year kind of contract and rolling and all that kind of thing, and it probably is a foregone conclusion that they're talking and they're going to get it tied up. I think get it tied up just before the running. I think get it tied up, because no matter what happens in this running, he's building that, and his identity is going to be all through the team. So who better to continue that work than him himself? So just tie it up.
He strikes me as being a guy that doesn't really bother though, Sean. He wakes up every day, he's got a year contract and that kind of that rolling contract, and seems to be someone who's happy with that setup and doesn't need to worry about longer term.
Fans will worry.
I know the fans. I know the fans will worry, yeah, but whenever you put these things to him, he just sort of has the same stock response. It was the same when he was asked about additional backroom staff, and he was just like, "It's just me. It's just the way I work. It's just how I like it." So,
I agree. Aye, he's very much confident in his own ability, comfortable in his own skin. I think you can see that even going back to the very first thing you pointed out about what Ralston was saying. I think you can see that type of thing coming across in his players as well, the longer that they work with him. Yeah. I don't think it's a coincidence. There's no mixed messages. You know what you're getting. They know they're all pulling in that direction. And I think that comes from the manager's kind of the way that he carries himself and stuff. I think none of that's a coincidence. But you've got to remember, you mentioned it there about the backroom stuff. You also mentioned it in your piece about it could potentially, if they win the league, be the sweetest title win in your lifetime. You mentioned the thing about the backroom staff, about how he came across himself, and it was an absolute mess. We've kind of spoke off camera a couple of times with each other, just in general, just shooting the breeze. And Eddie Howe's come up a couple of times, and obviously now you're kind of, it's almost a blessing in disguise, all that kind of thing, because everybody's all in on Ange, and that's fine. You admitted yourself at the time that you did want Howe. You were really annoyed that it wasn't Howe. And the thing that's come up about the backroom staff, I've never really seen that as a stick to beat Howe with, because I think that the mess that the club was in the summer, I think it's totally understandable. He did want to make a point of taking all his backroom staff, a lot of his backroom staff, because he felt that's what was required. But likewise, two things can be true. That it doesn't need to be a stick to beat him with, but it can certainly be used to praise Ange Postecoglou for coming across himself, saying, "No, fine, no backroom staff, right? Okay, I believe in what I'm selling. I think that the ones that are there will want to get involved and all that." And it's proven to be the case. So I think that's to his credit, even though I would argue it's not to Howe's detriment.
But during the Schwarzer interview as well, he also talked about building something, didn't he?
Yep.
So, which kind of indicated that he wants to be here for the long term, whatever that is, 3-4 years or whatever. But he also said that he doesn't make any 5-year plans. So he was kind of, he was being very Ange, like saying things but not giving away too much of his trade secrets.
I'm going to put this one up. David Gillespie, Tony, what positions do you think we need to improve or bolster in the summer to make a proper impact in Europe? So specifically in Europe.
I still think we need, I would say, quality defenders, Sean. Our Achilles heel in Europe was losing goals. We lost the most amount of goals in the Europa League. Granted, we were up against a decent calibre of team, but I think if you could tie down Carter Vickers on a permanent deal and get another quality defender, I would be pretty happy.
To go well, centre back or just a left back, or well, not be a right. Well, maybe could be a right back, but what do you mean? Just a defender in general? Or?
Well, a couple of defenders, left back and centre back would for me, Sean. So I'm of the opinion, and I say this a lot. You can't get enough good players in your team. Our Achilles heel was scoring. From middle to front, we're okay, but you can still add, scoring midfielders and forwards at any time, because that's the way he likes to play. So he clearly knows that scoring goals is, but stopping goals is not his forte, isn't it? He says that as well, that he's kind of more of an offensive kind of coach. So, but I'm sure he'll have his eye on players that can help us stop. Because if they do win the title, you want to get into the Champions League, you want to compete. You don't want to be leaking goals the way they did in Europe last season. But he's also said that that's part of the learning process. You know, so and nobody will be learning more on the job than Ange. He's quite a shrewd guy, you know. So I think he'll have a list of defensive targets, certainly.
I think you've got to remember that two of their key players are loanees. 3 if you count Dazin Maida, but obviously he'll be joining in the summer permanently. So Cameron, Carter, Vickers, and Jota, they will be hard to replace if it's not. If it doesn't get done. So I think that's where you look first and foremost. You either tie them up or they need to be proactive in getting players of a similar quality to replace them, because they have been key this season, the two of them.
Yeah, and just guys coming in, agree, a left back of equal quality to Juranovic for a good start. Will McMillan comes in, agree, the defence needs 2 times centre backs, a left back, and Kieran, you know, left back and centre back needed one to keep it. I think most of us can see that, can't we? And if we can see that,
I think Greg Taylor's been much maligned, but that I've never said that they can't do better than Greg Taylor, just that they don't have better than Greg Taylor at the moment. I do think that he is a lot better than people give him credit for, but that is not to say that if a left back who is clearly better than Greg Taylor becomes available, that they don't go for him, because that's never been the case. I'm simply pointing out that nobody at the club just now is a better left back. So.
And the manager himself has said if Celtic do go into the Champions League group stages, he's wanting to compete.
Oh, aye.
He wants to qualify for the knockout phase. He's not going in there to finish fourth in the group. You know.
What always struck me about his European pre-match pressers and even the post-match ones was that he spoke a lot about measuring up, and a lot people overuse boxing analogies. I'm as bad for it as anybody else, but they're just going to swing digs and see what lands. That's never been the case for Celtic. They want to do it in a kind of more calculated way than that. It's never been just about you hit me, I'll hit you, or that kind of thing. It's never been about that. I think in terms of boxing, a lot of the time, who imposes their style on the other guy more is the one that comes out on top, and that's the way that Postecoglou thinks about it. Rather than just throwing haymakers all the time, he's always wanted to be showing teams we can impose our style on you. I think that's why the Bodo Glimt 2 legs were kind of wounding in a way, because that was 2 games in which they totally imposed their style on Celtic. That's what Ange wants Celtic to go and do to other teams. So I think that's important to remember, that it's never been about just throwing haymakers and seeing what lands. It's about imposing Celtic's style on teams, and that includes teams that are so-called better than them as much as it does other teams.
And I said at the time, and you'll remember this, I said on the pod that it was kind of look through the looking glass for Ange, that Bodo Glimt game, with their style and the way they played, but he wanted Celtic to be even better than that, moving further forward. Yep. And during the Schwarzer interview, he also made reference to the fact that Celtic had won the European Cup. He's got big ambitions. He's got lofty ambitions for Celtic in Europe.
I'm not going to say that he's saying that, but it's
I'm saying that he mentioned it because he said not many teams can say that. So there's a history and a prestige, and that's what I'm talking about.
It definitely. He came in, as he says, came in with his eyes open. Very little actually surprised him about taking a job at a club like Celtic. He didn't. He's mentioned a few times people, because he spent a lot of all of his career basically on the other side of the world, that people think you're coming over and it's almost like, you don't know much about this place and stuff. He's a football guy first and foremost. He did know, as I don't know about most, but a lot of people, certainly football fans in Australia and all that, of course they know. And he's been pains to stress that the whole time he's been here, that it's not a backwater. They still know football, and I think that's as much what he was getting at as everything else. That he came into the kind of the size of club with his eyes wide open, knew exactly what was going to be expected in terms of success. Now, the balancing act of implementing his style while getting success, rather than, obviously you mentioned quite a lot of people suggesting it would be the second season is when you would see things starting to bear fruit. He, in that Optus interview, obviously mentioned that was never really going to be an option. You can't really get a season to bed in at that point. So as you keep saying, you don't do transitional seasons. So he knew that, he embraced that, and it's almost been turbocharged in terms of how fast can you get it ingrained. He's obviously the benefit of 2 transfer windows now. First one, I'd argue, he was backed in quantity but not quality. The second, give the board their dues, it was quality over quantity, and I think you're seeing the benefits of that already. It also helps that maybe not, you could make a case the league in general in terms of parity of quality with the leagues that he's managed in, but certainly Celtic are a different animal from the teams that he's managed before, and therefore the quality of player that he inherited, such as are still there, obviously McGregor and Turnbull and players like that, were of a higher quality and therefore potentially easier to adapt to a style of play.
Now, Will McMillan comes in and says, Ange will concentrate and strengthen the defence in the summer. I'm sure with a few targets up his sleeve. That's what we believe. David Bradley comes in and says, we need Champions League pot so we can really kick on. And then Will McMillan comes back in and says, I think Ange wants to get involved in the Champions League and prove himself there. There's no doubt about that. He's been saying that from day one, that European football is a gauge and a yardstick and a measure for a club like Celtic. And that's the fact. He's not daunted by the fact that they've won the European Cup, Sean. He's actually proud of that, and he's like, this is something that I want to, I can't say emulate it because it's too difficult a task, but he wants to go as far as he can with Celtic in the Champions League if he can get them there.
I like that attitude. You know where I stand on. Obviously, the Champions League is a different beast, and there's a dose of reality often required and stuff. But for Celtic, in terms of entering a competition, you can't get in it to lose it, certainly. So I like that attitude from him. You've got to remember that, and I'm not meaning to go back to Eddie Howe here because it's not really, it's not a dig at him, but Postecoglou's 56. He's not a rookie coach. He's been about and he's been in several countries and he's won a lot everywhere. He's been an international coach, all of that. But this was almost a new frontier for him as a coach as well. And I think you can see that how proud he was to have got the job, but also that opportunity to, as Will says, prove himself. Obviously, Will was talking about the Champions League, but even proving himself at a club that's bigger than any club that he's been at was an opportunity that you could see that an Ange Postecoglou type age of manager would never have turned down. And no wonder he came across himself because it might not have come up again.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, that's been another quick 22 and a half minutes, Sean.
Yep.
We've sorted the world Celtic problems out there, no problem at all. We hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your comments. We always enjoy it. We like that nature of it. And as I say, you see along the strap at the bottom. Yep. If you want to hit the subscribe button, then we'd be most welcome of that. And you know where to go to subscribe: www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe for some top quality journalism covering the club you love. Thanks for your contributions, guys. We genuinely do appreciate it on a daily basis. And I think you'll be absent tomorrow, Sean, is that right?
Yes, I'm taking my baby daughter for her first vaccinations. So, it'll be you and Alison on your Todd.
I hope that all goes well. And myself and Alison will see you tomorrow, guys. Have a wonderful Thursday. See you later.
Cheers, guys.